This is 5-Minute Power Platform, where I'm doing short experiments in Dynamics Flow, Power Apps, Azure, and more. Today we're going to do forms automation using AI Builder, Power Apps, Flow, and some other technologies. So I work in federal, and there are forms everywhere. GSA has about 900 forms. In the Department of Defense, there are close to 100,000 fillable PDF and other formatted forms. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this form that I made up. It's a tweet request form from 1957, and I have a stack of them here. And we're going to look at different ways of processing this data, whether it comes in on paper or PDF or something like that. And just before you think this looks too made up, do know that there is actually an internet standard for the transmission of data using avian carriers from 1990. So this only predates that by a little bit, but still is kind of in the right vein. So here's what we're going to build. We're going to build a model-driven app from scratch on the Common Data Service. And then we need something for these forms to automatically do when they're submitted. So we're going to use sentiment analysis and look at the sentiment of the tweet. If it's a happy tweet, we're going to tweet it automatically. Otherwise, we'll send it through approval before it's tweeted. And then we're also going to log every tweet in an on-premise database, just because I think it's important to consider legacy system integration, and that's so easy in the Power Platform. And then we're going to look at bringing in these forms from 3 different sources. From scanned paper using AI Builder and a Canvas app. From PDF uploaded to SharePoint, we're going to use Flow to extract the data directly. And also, why not use that same SharePoint site, so if something's emailed into a group inbox, we can still process those same PDFs. And then finally, we're going to rebuild the form on the PowerApps portal in a web page, and then we'll just submit that directly to the Common Data Service. So everything on the left is going to be input of the data, but it's all going to go through the same back-end process. So the first thing we're going to do is create the entity. We're going to really create this from scratch. And so we're going to create a new entity here, and this will be our tweet form entity. I'll put vid after it since we're recording a video right now. And our name field is going to be our actual tweet text. We're not going to deal with security in this, so I'll set it to organization, and we'll also turn on change tracking for flow. So let's create our entity. Now the name field defaults to 100. We want it to be tweet length, so we're going to bump that up to 260, call that done. And then let's add on our other custom fields. So these are just going to match what's on our form. So we're going to add email, make it type email. We're going to add the first name, leave that as text, add on the handle. And then finally, we're going to add on the approval status. Approval status will be mapped to an option set that I've already created. So we'll set up option set, and it's just draft, awaiting approval, tweeted, or disapproved. So we'll save this. Now we need to set up a view. So we'll just modify the active view for now. We'll just add on all the fields that we just added, drag created on over to the right-hand side, and we're going to make it so that it sorts by created on descending. Save and publish that, and then we'll edit the form as well. So come over here to the form. We're going to edit the main form, and we're going to add on all of our custom fields, and then we'll add status reason up to the top right. We'll make that read only so users don't change that. Save and publish this. Now we're ready to create our model-driven app. So we'll come back here and under create, we'll do model-driven app from blank. I'm going to give it a name. Done. Let's go edit that sitemap. The area we're going to call forms management. The group we're going to call forms. And then this sub area is going to be mapped to the entity we created. So it's going to be type entity, and it's going to be tweet form vid. Save and close, save, publish, play. Now we've got a model-driven app for this. It's pretty simple, but it works. So now we're ready then to hook this up. We'll do the last app. We're going to do sentiment analysis, flow if it doesn't pass sentiment analysis. Either way, it'll get tweeted if it doesn't get disapproved, and we're also going to hook up to the legacy database. So let's go to flow and let's create. We'll do an automated flow. It's going to be based off Common Data Service record when a record is created. We'll give it a name here, tweet form approval, put vid after it, and we'll create it. So we're going to use the current environment. Our entity is going to be the one we just created, and scope is organization because we didn't set up security. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do sentiment analysis. Now I've already rigged up the sentiment analysis through Azure, which is this separate exercise, but a pretty simple one. And so we're going to do a condition now. So if the score, which goes from 0 to 1, so 0 negative, 1 positive, if it's above 0.4, that's kind of a shrug. In that case, we're just going to tweet it out right away. And I've already hooked up my Twitter account, so we'll just do Twitter connector, post a tweet, and we'll put in the tweet text there. Now then we also have to go back and update the Common Data Service so that the status of the tweet is updated. So we're going to update a record. We'll do current environment, entity name, tweet from vid. And then the record identifier is going to be the field that has the entity's name, so tweet from vid. And then that brings up all our fields. Really all we care about is approval status. We're going to mark it tweeted. And now let's copy and paste that over here. And that way we don't need to recreate all that. So we'll just paste that back in. And now we have update our record. We just need it to say approval status, because if we're in the if no, then we have to route it for approval. So we'll use that approver connector now. We're going to do custom approvals in just one, because we're not going to go through a big long approval route. That's not really what this whole exercise is about. So our first approval option will be tweet it. The second one will be sad. And then we'll give it a title. And so we'll say we've got a new tweet from whoever the handle is. Assigned to, we're just going to assign it to me. We're not going to go through like looking up managers or anything like that, or checking out of Office. But that isn't another video I have. And then for the details, let's put the tweet text. And since we've got it, let's add in the sentiment as well, just so that the reviewer has that. So now we're good to go, except we need to also update at the end of this. So we need a condition here based on the outcome of the approval. So the outcome is either going to be tweet it or sad. And if it's tweet it, that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's copy that tweet it action and add it over here. We'll just paste that in. And then we're also going to update CDS again, and with the status tweeted. Luckily, when we copied it, that was the status, so we're good there. We don't need to touch that one. If it's no, we're just going to update it and say it was disapproved. So we'll post that CDS action. We'll change it to disapproved. And now we're good to go, except we had said too that we were going to do some legacy integration. We're going to integrate with an on-premise data service, because we've done the sentiment analysis, we've done the tweeting, so now we need to do on-prem. So let's do that at the very bottom. Let's come over here. We'll do SQL insert row. Here's my SQL server. It's on an Azure server, but it's an on-premise database. It's on-prem, Asset ERP is a database, and then tweets is the table name. So let's do SQL server. I'm going to choose insert row. Now you have to install the on-premise gateway into your database, and I've already done this. I'm just going to log into it here. You log in with your PowerApps credentials, and you can see it's connected. It connects through Azure Service Bus. I have a separate video on setting that up. Let's create a new connection here. I'm going to choose Windows Authentication, enter my server name, on-prem, my database name, Asset ERP, my database credentials. It found the gateway. I click Create, and it's going to connect to it. Now I just pick the database, pick the server, and then the table name is going to populate all the columns, and I can just map those in. So we'll pull in the tweet text from the when a record is created. There it is. Email, same way, from the bottom there. And then finally the handle. The last field is tweet date, so we're just going to take UTC now, pop it in there. So let's test this. We can test it pretty easily. We'll just create a new record at our model-driven app. Pop up Twitter there. We'll give a positive one here, and it should flow right through. So fill in the form, save and closed. And with any luck here, we'll come back here. Flow picked it up, and there we see it already hit Twitter, so that's good. So it looks like it's already flown through, and Flow's just catching up here. Sure enough. If we come back here, we should see now it says tweeted as a status, so that's good. Let's try a negative one just to make sure the right side goes too. So we'll do a negative one. Boo, don't do it. Fill in the form on the right-hand side. See here, it took the right-hand side, update record, awaiting approval. If we come into Outlook, we should see the approval waiting for us. Sure enough. Let's do sad. We don't want this one to get tweeted. And we come in here, now it says disapproved in the status, but we got both of them added to SQL Server as we would expect. So we've got the legacy integration too. So now let's scan some paper. Let's get some data into the system we just built. We'll start by scanning paper forms using AI Builder. So let's go to AI Builder. We're going to build a form processing model. Give the model a name. Now this is going to take sample documents, JPEGs, PNGs, PDFs. I've got some PNGs, so some image files. So these are just pictures of forms. And we're going to update a few of them. You're limited to 4 megabytes, 50 pages. I'm going to update, about 30 of them or so. These upload, and you click Analyze, and what it does is it looks through all the images and looks for differences. That's where your form fields are. Everything that doesn't change is part of the form. And so it isolates those, uses AI then to extract that data out. So once it's done analyzing here, we can click on the form. It's going to show us what it found it thought were form data. And I just click on the ones I care about. There's a couple false positives at the bottom that I don't. And then hit done, hit train. These things train real fast, not like some of the AI models. And then I hit publish. Let's do a quick test first. So quick test, you can drag an image in, and it'll just process it through the model so you can make sure, yeah, it's doing the right thing. I pulled out my form fields. It looks good. So I hit publish. And then I can create an app directly from the AI model, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to choose Canvas app from blank, phone layout, because that's what I've got. And then we'll do a scan tweet form. So I'll create this. I'm going to rename the form as my first step. You want a nice human readable form because people who are vision impaired, they actually get that text out from the screen reader, so it makes it easier for them. Then we'll insert the AI Builder form processor, and this is a control that's going to process the images. I'm going to map it to the AI model we just created. Now on the on change, I like to set a variable that brings me the form fields. The reason is just there's a lot of typing, right? You do form processor 1, form content fields. So I'm just going to set that to a variable so I don't have to type that every time I'm going to reference one of these fields. So I'm going to set var current for it equal to that. Let's load up a form, and let's just make sure var current form gets set once the AI model processes that form. So sure enough, there's my record. I've got the data extracted from this image of a form, this PNG file. Let's add in a new form, new screen. This is going to be a forms type screen. We'll call it review data. Let's put on a button on our first screen that takes us to our second screen. So we'll call this review. Let's set up the action, navigate. It's already defaulted well. That's nice. So I click review, takes us to this form. Let's fix the typo. Review data. Good. And then for this title placeholder on top, let's just point it at the parent, the form name. And so that'll always stay up to date. That makes that easy. We're going to create new records out of this form. Let's hook it up to the entity we created earlier. It's going to default some fields. We don't care about approval status. We don't care about created on. We just care about these 4 fields. So let's shrink the form a tiny bit. Now tweet text can be longer though. So let's unlock that field. Click on the input box itself, make it multi-line and drag it down. And now that that card is unlocked, we can start populating the data. So let's click on the tweet text data card. And we can then populate that. We'll set the default value equal to var current form dot tweet message. And it gets populated right away. That's nice. Let's unlock the next card down, the email. Set the default value of our current form equal to electronic mail address, which is the name that came off our form. Next card down, we'll unlock it, var current form dot first name. And then the last one we'll set to the handle, which is called your ad address in the form. So we'll unlock this card, set the default value equal to var current form dot your ad address, your ad name. So now those are all populated. So one thing we're going to do is when this form becomes visible, we're going to provision a new record from the form. So new form, edit form 1, and that'll give us a new record rather than editing the existing record. Let's add on a button here, and this will be what submits the form. So we'll say tweet it. And this thing needs to go somewhere, so let's add in a new success form. Call it success. And then we'll have our tweeted button navigate there after it submits the form. So we'll say submit form, edit form 1. And then a semicolon, and then we'll do navigate to the success form. And we'll pick a transition here. There we go. All right, so we should be able to try this out now. So let's scan a new form. Pick that one. We'll review it, pulled out the data. Oh, it's like a little bit of line breaking issue there. And they'll pick tweet it. And it says, oh, there's no way to get back though. So we need a button on here that's going to take us back to the first form. So click a button, say, let's do another one, tweet again. And it'll set action, navigate. It's already pointing us back to the beginning. That's kind of nice. So now we'll play this. It takes us back to the beginning. Now there's no way to reset this analyze form, this form processor thing control yet. So you're going to have the old data in there no matter what, which is kind of unfortunate. But the one we just clicked on, we just tweeted, it's already awaiting approval. Apparently Confucius's words weren't positive enough to pass the sentiment analysis. So now we're going to do PDFs. So upload them to SharePoint and they'll automatically get processed. So let me come into my flow here, and we're going to create an automatic flow that's going to work when a PDF gets dropped in SharePoint. So we'll do tweet from SharePoint. Our trigger is going to be when a file is created in a folder. Click create. And then we'll do forms, pick the folder. I'm going to use my shared documents folder. And then next we'll choose the PDF. I'm using a third-party PDF reader. There's a few of these out there. The one I'm using is from PlumSale. And I'll show you at the end how to do this, something similar with the AI Builder as well. So I'm using get form from PDF. I'm going to throw it in the file content that came from the SharePoint trigger. And let's see, we don't really know what this is going to get back. It's going to give us some sort of JSON, but let's just test it out. So throw in a test. Let's open up SharePoint here, and let's drag a filled PDF into there so we can see what comes out of the flow. So here's my PDF. Let it drop in. And so we can look inside this step and we can see, okay, so this is the JSON we're going to get out of it. So let's copy that and let's add on a parse JSON object, and we'll just throw that in as sample data so that we get a schema out of it, and it'll be able to parse it. So parse JSON, it gets the body from the step above. Use the sample payload we just copied, and now we've got a schema. And so now we've got the data out of that, and the last thing we need to do is create a new record in our CDS, our Common Data Service, and all the other flows that we created will just work. So we'll start with the tweet text we pulled out of the PDF, the email, the first name, and the handle. So let's save this. So now we can drop in a few files, and we'll just let the thing do its thing. So we'll drop in a few PDFs here. We can watch our tweets. Maybe we'll have some positive ones that'll slip through. And let's see here. We'll do a refresh. There they are. So we've got 3 running right now. And we come back here to our model-driven app. And we can see they all succeeded here. They're in draft. One just went through, just tweeted. 2 tweeted. There it comes. And so we can see everything's working. So we're able to drop a PDF in. Now let's email it too. So let's set up another flow. When PDFs get emailed in, they'll get stripped off and dropped in that same SharePoint site. So we'll do an automated flow that's going to watch a shared inbox. So we'll do a tweet from email. And we'll look for the shared inbox trigger. I'm going to use the V2. And so the mailbox address I set up is called forms, form feeder. Now you may have to make sure you turn on has attachment and include attachments. Otherwise you won't get them and this thing will null out. That's kind of frustrating. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to strip off the attachments and save them to SharePoint. And then all of the other flows will just work as intended. So we'll do create file. We'll do it in our shared document place where we're putting our PDFs. For the file name, we'll do attachments name. Now it's going to add apply to each because it knows you could have more than one attachment, and attachments content for the body. We'll do save and test, and let's just send another email over, and we should have this one working as well. So let's create a new email. I'm going to send it to my forms inbox, form feeder. I'll give it a subject, tweet these, and then we'll throw in a few PDFs here, shoot that over. Should see our flow pick it up. Drum roll. There it is. So we see apply to each. I did it 3 times, and I should have 3 new documents in here. And in my model-driven application, I should see these come through here in a second. There they are. So they're all draft. And there we go. We can see we already got one tweeted. So it's all working. So now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to recreate one of this web form in the portals, in Power Portals. So to do that then, what it does, it reuses the same form, this form here that we built for the model-driven app. It's just going to be replicated out to the portal, which is kind of nice reuse. So to do this, you create a new portal from blank from the create menu in Power Apps. Now I've already got one provisioned, and they take like 30 minutes to 2 hours to provision. So we're going to just modify one that I already did that step on. So this forms portal here. You go to all apps, click edit. And so this first thing, let's just change this image. I already uploaded a shark by just clicking upload it there. So it's good. We've got form shark here. And then let's do a blank page with title. And give it a name. We're going to call this the tweet page. We'll get rid of this explanatory text here. I don't know what it's doing there. We'll add in a form. We're going to give the form a name. So we're going to call this our tweet form vid. Entity, we're going to point it to the new entity we made, the tweet form vid as well, which is there. You can see the form that we created as well. We're going to do insert mode. We're always going to add new records. Success message is going to be, yeah, we don't want any CAPTCHAs. And then we move off of that. Let's give it a title. We'll call Tweet Your Mind. And then we should be able to check it out. So we'll go to Browse Website, and that's going to publish this, and we should be able to look at our form. It should be a copy of our form. Tweet, text, email, first name, and handle. So let's give it a tweet. Now these aren't going to go via flow. These are going to go directly into the Common Data Service. So it should actually transmit pretty fast here. So when I hit submit, let's pull up our tweets. And hopefully this is a positive enough one. It'll flip through the sentiment analysis. Let's see. Draft. Waiting up. No, it didn't. So, but we did get submitted. We can see it there in the Common Data Service. So we'll do tweet it here in our approvals. There it is. So say tweet it, and we should see it come through. Now, also on our portal too, we want to give the user a list of all of the tweets. Oh, there we go. We check our legacy. Legacy integration is working fine on our on-premise database connector. So now let's go and let's create a new page. And it's going to be a list of tweets where someone can review all the tweets as well. So we'll create a new page. We're going to do blank page with title. I'm going to give it a name, tweets. Let's see here. So let's get rid of the sample text again. We're going to put in a 3-column divider here. Now, these pages are constructed with a language called Liquid, and I want to change this so it's a 2/3, 1/3 column. And you can do that with Liquid. Let me just grab it there, and you can see here. So I'm going to change this first column to 8 and remove the second one and save it. And you can see now I've got a 2/3, 1/3 column. Now on the 1/3 side, let's put an iframe into Twitter so we can see a list of tweets. And so what I'll do is I'll select on that column there. And then we'll do components and we'll insert an iframe. And by default, naturally it goes to Bing. Let's just set it to go to Twitter. Set the height to 400, the width to 350, just make it a little bit bigger. And then we're going to insert a list here. And this list is really going to map to that view that we created at the very beginning on our entity. So we're going to call this the tweet list. Let's choose our entity again. And the view is the one we edited. We're going to give the ability to create a new record. And we'll pick that form that we just created for our other one. Empty list message, we'll just say, yeah, get tweeting. And let's give it a page, a title too. So we'll update the title where it says new page. We'll say see tweets. And then we'll browse, and this will publish, and we should be able to see it on the website as well. Give it a second to load. Now we've got all of our tweets there. We click create new. We can create a new one from here once the form loads. So the same thing. So now we've got a page that shows a list of tweets. It shows our form. We can create new ones. Hopefully this one's positive enough that it'll actually slip through the sentiment analysis. Now I submit it. And I've also got a list of tweets right from Twitter on the right-hand side. So now we've got a portal that you can submit and view tweets and also bring in some external content. Now there's a couple other things I wanted to show you too. So the AI builder model you can actually use in Flow. To use it in Flow, you have to build your flow inside a solution. So I'm going to go to Solutions on the left-hand side here, create AI builder forms, set up my publisher, you give it a version 1.0.0.0 and click create. And I'm going to create my form, my flow from within this solution. So I'll click on Flow. And this one's going to be triggered by SharePoint as well. We're going to use a different SharePoint site where I'll drop PNG files because that's what our model is trained on. So let's just give this flow a name, AI Builder Flow, SharePoint. When an item is created, when a file is created in a folder. And we'll point it to forms. I'm just going to point it to a different folder called scans, and that's where I'm going to upload these images. And so when a new scan is added, we're going to send it through the predict. And so this predict connector is only available if your flow is in a solution. And so predict is a common data service connector. There's all the models. That's the AI builder model we just created. And the payload is going to be a JSON string. And so it's structured in a very specific way. And this is in documentations that I'll include in the description here. So the first thing is you need a base 64 encoded payload. And so in double quotes, I'm going to use the base 64 function or expression. And I'm going to put in for the content, the file content. And the second thing you need to know is it needs to know the content type. And so again, in quotes, you're going to choose the MIME type, colon, and then also in double quotes. And we'll take the content type, the MIME type, directly out of SharePoint. Be sure you have a comma between these two elements, but not at the end. And then we'll do a closing bracket and save. Now this is going to produce some JSON. Let's take a look here at what it produces. And what it's going to do is it's actually a relatively complex object, and we just care about part of it. And so to see what it comes out, we'll just use parse JSON here. And we'll bring in our response payload, and we'll just put an empty schema in so we can see it just come straight out. So let's save this and test it. And we'll test it by going to that scan document library and uploading a PNG. So these are the same files that I was adding or taking a picture of in my Canvas app. We're just going to drop them into this SharePoint site. So this allows us to use the same AI model in new ways, right? Connecting it into email or SharePoint or in other ways, anything you can really do flow with. And so we'll let the flow run here, and in a second we should see it come through, run through the AI model, and we'll have some JSON that we can assess. So here's the flow. It's running through the predict, running through our AI builder. And then at the end, we can see, okay, so here's the JSON that comes out. And so what we'll do is we'll copy that, and we'll use this as a sample payload for our JSON builder. And so now we've got something that's with a schema that it knows. So we'll put in our entity name, and now we need to start populating the fields. So normally, if you look on the right-hand side, parse JSON will give you specific fields. The way this is structured, it doesn't. You have to actually pull them out one by one. And the documentation has some good help on how to do that. And I'll put it up here on the screen. So this is what I'm going to put as an expression in each one of my fields. In brackets there you see field name. So that's the actual name from the AI Builder model. So in my case, it's going to be first name or handle or something like that. So I'm going to put these in here. So you can see your at name. That was what my model was trained on for handle. And so I'll save this, we'll replay the last test, and we should see then the data going through the AI Builder model and going directly into CDS. So we'll let this run. It looks good. Now we come back to our model-driven app and refresh. So the data went from a scanned image of a form through our AI model and into our model-driven app, and then got tweeted and also put in our legacy database. So the whole thing ran pretty quickly. Now there's another way, of course, to do it. You could also build just Canvas apps for each of your forms. So here's an example of one form I did where I put fields on top of an actual image of the form, and it gives a nice paper-looking feel if that's what you want. Some people want that. So just give you kind of that final option for dealing with forms. So anyways, this has been a pretty long, much longer than 5-minute Power Platform video. It's a shorter version of a presentation I did at 365 Saturday, which was 50 minutes. But hopefully this was useful to you and hopefully makes automating forms a little easier in your life so you can deal with a little less paper. Thanks for watching.